Hello, my name is Alexei. I would like to make a video by the title Submission to the Government by a Flat Earther. I'm not going to try to prove that the Earth is flat. There's other videos both from biblical standpoint of view and scientific point of view to prove that the Earth is flat. But I will deal more with consequences. I'm aware of the ultimate goal of the major governments. I'm talking about like presidents of major countries. So right now we have about almost 8 billion people. So the ultimate goal is to depopulate the world to 500 million. And let's just say major rulers like Putin likes to kiss children in the stomach. Now we have like a couple of mistresses on the side. Biden also likes to kiss children. Then you have Michael and Barack Obama together, and Donald Trump used to be a friend with Jeffrey Epstein. I do not know. Some people say that he says that, oh, I was never really a friend of his, and just a shady man. I believe we don't know, but let's be honest, those Jeffrey Epstein's flight list will never be released to the public, like full list, not like couple of people here and there, but the full list of them will never be released. By the way, those who cheering for Putin, that oh, he's such a nice guy, reality is that when he came into power in 2000, the Russia was actually depopulating, I would say, because of his policies. So yeah. So yeah, if you're watching Alex Jones thinking, oh, Putin is saving us from the elites, no. Also, let's look at the Bible. Psalm chapter 2, verse 1 till 3. Why are the nations restless and the peoples plotting in vain? The kings of the earth take their stand, and the rulers conspire together against the Lord and against His Anointed, saying, let's tear their shackles apart and throw their ropes away from us. Interesting things that together they conspire against God. Interesting things that, yes, we have so-called wars, but reality is that only regular people suffering from those wars. The rulers is actually benefiting from those wars. Think about all the money that they can make from all of those wars, like military industrial complex, for example. Like they making all that money, politicians, they make all that money while the regular people just dying. Next, Psalm 58 verse 1 till 2. Do you indeed speak righteousness, you gods? Do you judge fairly, you sons of mankind? No, in your heart you practice injustice. On earth you clear a way for the violence of your hands. Interesting things that God mockingly calls rulers of this world. He calls them gods. Why? Because major politicians, they try to think that they are gods, that they're above the law of God. Interesting thing is that you have this example in the New Testament. Acts chapter 12 verse 21 till 23. On an appointed day, after putting on his royal apparel, Herod took his seat on the rostrum and began delivering an address to them. The people repeatedly cried out, "The voice of a God and not of a man." And immediately an angel of the Lord struck him, because he did not give God the glory, and he was eaten by the worms and died. So we're gonna look at a quick video for Trump's fans. So that's a pastoress. Notice, pastoress of the President of the United States, Donald Trump. Listen what she's saying.
Wherever I go, God rules. When I walk on White House grounds, God walks on White House grounds.
So she's pretty much equating God to herself, or I should say, it's just like she equates God to herself.
I had every right and authority to declare the White House as holy ground because I was standing there, and where I stand is holy.
Once again, it's just people, I mean, clapping for what? Like, she equates herself to God. But watch this.
To say no to President Trump would be saying no to God.
Again, and once again, she equating President Trump to God.
And I won't do that.
We are in a spiritual war right now. Let every demonic network that has aligned itself against the purpose, against the calling of President Trump, let it be broken, let it be.
So she compares, it's like if you're going against Trump, you're going against God, like you are demon possessed, basically. Where Mr. President Trump does not even know one Bible verse. I mean, it's just hilarious and sad at the same time. Donald Trump, the Bible verses. That was just, to me, it was hilarious and sad at the same time.
Quotes, but I'm telling you, when Donald Trump does some.
There we go. Let me
take a look at this.
Okay. You mentioned the Bible. You've been talking about how it's your favorite book, and you said, I think last night in Iowa, some people are surprised that you say that. I'm wondering what one or two of your most favorite Bible verses are,
well,
and why.
I wouldn't want to get into it because to me that's very personal. You know, when I talk about the Bible, it's very personal, so I don't want to get into verses. I don't want to get into.
There's no verse that means a lot to you that you think about or cite.
The Bible means a lot to me, but I don't want to get into specifics.
Even to cite a.
So basically, you have zero Bible verses in his brain, or ability to evangelize to the people. Like Christ says, if you're ashamed of me and my words, I will be ashamed of you. I mean, if you're a conservative so-called Christian, and you like looking at this man like your brother Christ, sorry, he's not. And you need to get your priorities straight. Christ's kingdom is not of this world. Otherwise, Christ's slaves would fight, and we're not. And the whole charade, in my opinion, it's all predetermined behind closed doors anyway. So this is it for Donald Trump. So next Bible verse, Revelation 19:19. And I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies assembled to make war against him who sat on the horse and against his army. So notice, kings of the earth are fighting against Christ, all of them together. I mean, to me it doesn't matter, it's like Republican, Democrat, or whatever. It's all statism, and hoping that instead Christ providing anywhere for his elect, that instead of Christ it's state, that whoever is in charge provides food and clothing for the people. Next, Revelation 22 verse 14 to 15. Blessed are those who do his commandments, that they may have the right to the tree of life and may enter the gates into the city. But outside are dogs and sorcerers and sexually immoral and murderers and idolaters and whoever loves and practices a lie. Interesting things that from here, it's not only those who saying lies, but those who love the lies, like blind followers of any politician, because all politicians just promising them a best life now, basically. Then you have Mark 8 verse 15. And he was giving orders to them, saying, watch out, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the leaven of Herod. Leaven of Herod referring to the false teaching of the king or ruler. I mean, look at Donald Trump, Barack Obama, George Bush. I mean, all of them are trying to use the Bible for their gains. Next, 1 Peter chapter 4 verse 14 to 16. If you are reproached for the name of Christ, you are blessed. Blessed are you. For the Spirit of the glory and of God rests on you. On their part he is blasphemed, but on your part he is glorified. But let none of you suffer as a murderer, a thief, an evildoer, or as a busybody in other people's matters. Yet if anyone suffers as a Christian, let him not be put to shame, but let him glorify God in this matter. Notice from Jews' view that Christ was a blasphemer, but from our view he was glorified, and we should not suffer as murderers. We should, thieves. By the way, like murderer, like for example, Barabbas, whom Pontius Pilate proposed to be released, either Christ or Barabbas. He was technically more of a freedom fighter, those person who rebelled against Rome. So he was like literally a freedom fighter who was committing murder against Roman government in insurrection. So like just like think of George Washington. Technically he was a freedom fighter, a rebel. Once again, I don't see that Christians should attempt this overthrowing the government, trying to make things better. It's like, you know how many people you're gonna have to kill? I mean, in the New Testament, once again, new law, new commandments, New Testament, love your enemies, pray for them. And you're gonna pray for them and you're gonna love them by killing them. It makes no sense. Next, Acts 5 verse 27 to 29. When they had been brought them, they had them stand before the council. The high priest interrogated them, saying, we gave you strict orders to not to continue teaching in his name, and yet you have filled Jerusalem with your teaching and intend to bring this man's blood upon us. But Peter and the apostles answered, we must obey God rather than man. It's always a choice. Should we obey God or man? We always obey God first. In Matthew 10 verse 28, do not be afraid of those who kill the body, but are unable to kill the soul, but rather fear him who is able to destroy both soul and body in hell. Once again, it's God is the one that actually controls hell, and he's the one who is destroying soul and body in hell. It's not Satan. Next verse, interesting things that some translations, it's almost like they wanna seems like our battle is against like some demons or some aliens or some Satan, but it's not just that. But look at actually verse. So after put on the armor of God, so that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the world rulers of this darkness, against the spiritual powers of evil in the heavenly places. Notice that it's against the rulers, against the authorities, against the world rulers of this darkness. And you say, well, our rulers of United States are all Christian, humble men, especially Donald Trump, he's who doesn't know the Bible but willing to sell Bibles and with Constitution, like mixing Constitution and the Bible is like both of them are ordained and heavenly divine by God. It's like, no, it's like freedom of religion found nowhere in the Bible. Like in the Old Testament Israel, like if you're trying to worship Baal or golden calf, you would be put to death. In the New Testament, Christ says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through him. Think of any ruler, any so-called major like senator or president of the United States who claimed to be Christian. Has he even ever said that Jesus Christ is the only way? False religions like Roman Catholicism, Orthodoxy, or Buddhism or Islam will lead you to hell? Of course not. They will never say that, because they have to be likable by all kinds of people. Romans 13, the most favorite Bible verses for statists, or many of them, they would always point out Romans 13. Let every soul be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God. I would argue, yes, there's all authority, like Stalin, Mao Zedong, Hitler. Think of all of like whom you've been told that they're evil, or who is actually evil. They all been appointed by God. Therefore, whoever resists the authority resists the ordinances of God, and those who resist will bring judgment on themselves. For rulers are not a terror or to good works, but to evil. And once again, sometimes, yes, being a citizen who just pay taxes, not trying to overthrow the government, not question government in a sense of specifically their deeds, but maybe challenging, like for example, John the Baptist. He confronted Herod of having his sister with some brother's wife as now his I guess his wife, like pretty much about adultery. I mean, and it's just some things that it's it's interesting, like with Donald Trump case, that like with all his divorces and remarriages. By the way, if you look at besides First Corinthians 7 and Malachi, Christ pretty much taught that if you divorce without a reason of this person committing adultery on you, and you divorcing this person and remarrying somebody else, you are committing adultery. Or if you marry on a woman who divorced without her being committed adultery upon, you are committing adultery yourself. So interesting things that it's almost like some people like forget this half a verse. For rulers are not a terror to good works but to evil. But what if the rulers actually the terror for good works and they actually benefiting or giving praise to the evil works? Should we obey him? No, you obey God rather than man. But interesting thing, like later on it talks about like securing wrath, like paying taxes, custom, fear, honor. And yeah, I mean, I would even honor Joe Biden, pay taxes to him, because let's be honest, the useful idiots, or also known as soldiers or policemen. By the way, I used to be a soldier, if you new to this channel, but basically, yeah, they are useful idiots who will do for a paycheck anything that the ruler tells them to do. So I'm looking at the taxes more as a more like a payoff to the rulers that may be even evil, and they are evil in many cases. Like I said, major countries, major rulers, they pretty much have to bow their knee to Satan, basically. Like, for example, in Matthew 17 verse 24 to 27, now when they came to Capernaum, those who collected the 2 drachmas tax came to Peter and said, does your teacher not pay the 2 drachma tax? He said, yes. And when he came into the house, Jesus spoke to him first, saying, what do you think, Simon? From whom do the kings of the earth collect customs or poll taxes? From their sons or from strangers? When Peter said, from strangers, Jesus said to him, then the sons are exempt. However, so that they will that we do not offend them, go to the sea and throw in a hook and take the first fish that comes up, and when you open its mouth you will find a stater. Take that and give it to them for you and me. So the SWAT team would not knock on your door or break into your home through the door. Pay taxes. That's simple as that. It's like think of like a principal's child who have like a gang of 10 people at least, and you just by yourself. He demands a sandwich from you. Give him a sandwich. You may keep the apple, you might eat the apple, but you might have to give up the sandwich. Just the same thing. I mean, yeah, it's taxes kind of like a payoff to the governing authorities who demand the taxes and honor. Next, so here's a couple of books I would recommend. For example, The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli. It's pretty much, he exposes the mindset of narcissistic, lying, cold-blooded killer. Interesting thing is that that's pretty much whom you need to be a major ruler. Then you have Republic by Plato, where apolitical soldiers are preferred, whereas they would say, I was just following orders. That's exactly what the rulers want. Useful idiot. What is useful idiot? Well, it's a naive or curious person who can be manipulated or exploited to advance a cause or political agenda. Interesting thing in the Bible is a couple of cases. For example, in 2 Samuel chapter 11 verse 14 to 18, in the morning David wrote a letter to Joab. By the way, Joab here is the useful idiot for David, and sent it by hand of Uriah. Imagine Uriah carrying pretty much his death sentence in this letter. So, verse 15. In the letter he wrote, "Set Uriah in the forefront of the hardest fighting, and then draw back from him, and then he may strike him down and die." And as Joab was besieging the city, he assigned Uriah to the place where he knew there were violent men. And the men of the city came out and fought with Joab, and some of the servants of David among the people fell. Uriah the Hittite also died. Then Joab sent and told David all the news about the fighting. So Joab pretty much knew where to put Uriah at so that Uriah would die, not knowing that David was trying to cover up adultery with Bathsheba. I mean, imagine like Joab thinking like David, God's anointed king. Uriah is a bad person. I don't know what he did, but he must did something bad, and he pretty much he obeys David, and whoever fought in that fight, Hittites. Oh no, not Hittites. Pretty much whoever fought against Uriah killed him, but ultimately the blame goes on David, while Job is the useful idiot. Then you have, of course, in Gospel of John, where the soldiers actually and officers of the soldiers, Elsa being useful idiot, who ultimately crucified Jesus Christ. But of course the blame goes on Judas Iscariot and the Jews, specifically like Pharisees. The same thing like Herod and his soldiers. I mean, they're just doing their jobs, what they've been told to do. Useful idiots. But continue on. 1984, George Orwell. History is controlled by the government, or sometimes Roman Catholic Church control religious history. Or in some cases Greek Orthodox Church controls history. Interesting things that to me right now, like when I was, let's just say, a young Christian, interesting things that how like church history is taught. Like you have the Bible, then you have Augustine and Constantine, and then they would skip down to Reformation, like 1,000 year, like so-called silence. But then I discovered a book called Reformers and Their Stepchildren, where actually those other groups of Christians who seems like being true Christians was actually being killed or literally exterminated during those times. So it's like, and what we know about them, like Valdensians, Novatianists, Donatists, Paulinians, is actually from Roman Catholic sources. So basically, in my opinion, like history is like a could be either controlled or manipulated or hidden. Next, Animal Farm by George Orwell. Like how small change of facts changes things. Like you can go from being a hero to being a evildoer very quickly. And you have Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. That how drugs and propaganda from young age works very well. I mean, can you think of like Coca-Cola? Like, I mean, can you imagine like a sugary drink that most likely causes actually lots of heart problems is actually sold in the hospitals? To me, it's a mind-boggling. And like my view of like major rulers, like if you want to be a president of the United States, here we go, that's what you need, those qualities and those desires. First, you have to be a good actor, great, no, not just good, great actor, like hypocrite. By the way, the word hypocrite in the Bible, it literally means an actor. Liar, you have to able to twist facts. You have to be a cold-blooded killer, decide who's gonna die. You gotta be a good thief to pay off all the people who helped you to get in power, either through taxes or humanitarian aids or some projects, steal money from different people. Then you gotta be a narcissist, or have like a godlike mentality and thinking that you're above the law, that the law is for you but not for me, type of thing. And be driven by power, money, and pleasures of this world. That's basically man of sin, basically. I mean, I can't think of a Christian being like true Christian being a president of any major country, not just United States. And I would also think that the difference between the, evil rulers and so-called good rulers is either they are winners or losers. Winners write a propaganda history to appear to be clear of sin and innocent and moral or religious, like being moral or religious. Like, I mean, Alexander the Great is like, in my opinion, like most likely a bisexual. Those Persian wives that he had is more like a political, diplomatic move on his part. And then, like, if you think about, like, okay, Adolf Hitler and like the so-called allies, Stalin, horrible, Churchill, and I think it was like FDR, but like interesting, like England was also empire as well. In 1940s was still Ku Klux Klan ruling United States. I mean, it's just it's all it is. It's either winner or loser. If you lose, then you're worst person in the world. That's why it's all because of you. And do not question any historical things that happened in World War II. So yeah, and then the last thing, like for example, George Washington and Whiskey Rebellion. To me, if you research this whole thing, is like taxation without representation, and from England, and then once George Washington comes to power, he does exactly the same thing now on upon Americans who produce alcohol. So that's it.